Несмотря на усилия Соединенных Штатов Америки и силы международной коалиции, ситуация в Афганистане вызывает определенную озабоченность в странах Центральной Азии. Но в то же время, например, аналитики говорят, что страны Центральной Азии не очень активны в региональных проектах, которые бы на самом деле могли помочь Афганистану. И что когда что-то происходит, они просят помощи у тех же Соединенных Штатов Америки. Как вы прокомментируете это? Насколько страны Центральной Азии вообще активны в региональных проектах?
Well, in my travels in Central Asia, most recently, in every country that I visited, and with every leadership with whom I conversed, the subject of Afghanistan was always raised. It's very important to them from a security standpoint, also from an economic standpoint, because many of the countries of Central Asia certainly see that if the situation were to stabilize in Afghanistan, that Afghanistan could play a very important role in the economic development and of Central Asia and South Asia by acting as the bridge between, as trade bridge, as well as with pipelines and developing the resources that are in the region. And so they have a great deal of interest in seeing that Afghanistan develop as a sovereign, independent, stable, and prosperous state, which we share, the United States, as well as other partners in the area, including Russia. And I would say that the Central Asian states have been very active with Afghanistan. There recently were signed agreements between Uzbekistan and Afghanistan on building and facilitating the transmission of electricity from Uzbekistan to Afghanistan that will enable and will develop the economy and also improve the lives of the citizens in Afghanistan in their cities. Similarly, there is an agreement between Tajikistan and Afghanistan for providing more electricity into Afghanistan for economic development, as well as with Turkmenistan. And Turkmenistan is providing humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan. They're building a railway, they're building transmission lines. President Berdy Muhammadov visited Kabul not so long ago in order to also, they are training Afghans in their institutions, not just in Turkmenistan, but elsewhere in Central Asia. And the trade that is developing between Afghanistan and its neighbors, such as Tajikistan. The United States was instrumental in funding the building of a bridge, a major bridge, the Nizhny Panj, between Tajikistan and Afghanistan. And recently that bridge was opened about a year ago. And so we see a very active role by the Central Asians in Afghanistan because they see why it is so important for their own economic development as well as for their own security to ensure that there is a stable situation in Afghanistan, and it is also not going to be a source for narcotics trafficking, for criminality, for extremism that can be very dangerous to the countries, the neighbors, northern neighbors of Afghanistan. So they are very interested, and not just interested in Afghanistan, but they are also very active. Kazakhstan, which maybe geographically doesn't have a border with Afghanistan, nevertheless desires to invest in the Afghan economy, as well as, and even Kyrgyzstan is involved in trying to work out a way of providing electricity, an electricity grid that can also help in providing electricity to Afghanistan, as well as building roads that would lead all the way from Kazakhstan to Afghanistan and through Afghanistan beyond to Pakistan and India. Railways, as I mentioned, between Turkmenistan and Afghanistan. So that it is, even in spite of the tension and the situation that is, the security situation that is concerning many people in Afghanistan, nevertheless, there is progress in the relationship and in the developing of the actions and activities of the Central Asians. And the United States has been very supportive of these activities by the Central Asians, which they see is in their own interests, and we see in our interest too in developing, again, a regional neighborhood of economic ties and political and cultural ties among all of these countries that certainly bring, as we would say, bring the word central back into Central Asia. That it's not at the periphery of something or at the edge of a world or an empire or something like that, but it was very much at the center of trade, commerce, culture, which it had been, of course, historically centuries ago. So I think there's, and again, I think the peoples of Central Asia have a long perspective. They are peoples that are, very old on the face of the earth, their histories. They may be new states. However, I think they understand, and their leaderships do understand, that the long-term perspective is it can be quite bright, I think, for them, having these new opportunities in front of them since 1992.
4 ноября американцы будут выбирать нового президента. И очень много дискуссий вокруг этого. И, естественно, обсуждается вопрос, насколько изменится американская политика, например, по отношению к России. Будет президентом Обама или Маккейн. Но практически ничего не говорят о Центральной Азии. Как вы думаете, изменится ли политика США по отношению к Центральной Азии с приходом новой администрации?
Well, as someone, I've been 25 years in the diplomatic service, and I've seen many changes of administrations since then. And I think that every administration, I think, recognizes pretty much the fundamental interests that the United States has in the world and in various regions. And quite frankly, I don't see that there would be any major changes or differences regardless of who becomes president of the United States. There may be changes of individuals, of people, but I think our interests remain very much the same, and they've remained the same from under the first Bush Senior, as they say, George Bush Senior, when these countries first became independent, through the Clinton years, and through the George W. Bush years as well. That those interests have been very much the same. It's building a partnership, a relationship with each of these countries based upon the fundamental principle of respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence, and realizing that this is a long-term relationship that we have that is based upon continuous engagement and not subject to the fluctuations of elections, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. And I think that there, as far as Central Asia is concerned, I've seen, for instance, in discussions about it, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, for instance, that there is a great deal of agreement among Senator Lugar, Senator Biden as the chairman, Senator Biden, and Senator Lugar as the ranking member, on the importance of Central Asia, and I see this in the staffing of the Congress. So in both parties. So I don't see that whether it's an Obama administration or a McCain administration, that there would be much of a difference. I think there will be certainly accent on developing our security relationships with these countries, with our economic relationships, and I think whether it's a Democrat or Republican, certainly our relationships on human rights, respect for human rights, and how these countries are developing their societies, which has always been of great importance to both Republicans and Democrats in the United States Congress, and I think to both leaders who are leading their parties in the general election in November. So while we can always wait to see what will come out of the elections, I think our interests, America's interests, regardless of them being Democratic or Republican, are America's interests, and they will remain, I think, pretty much the same. I think we would hope, as we said in the earlier answer to your question, we would get more resources for programs that we wish to work with cooperatively in Central Asia, and attention to Central Asia from whoever the new administration will be. And I think that is something that I think we can all look forward to, regardless of whoever becomes president of the United States in November.
Спасибо большое.